To fix holes in drywall, we've got a couple different areas here. One, was an old towel bar, and you can see that they didn't use a good wall anchor, and they probably tried 2 or 3 times to put in screws, and it just blew a hole in it. And then over here we have the old paint, and it's built up quite a film here. So to smooth this out, if we were going to patch this and make it look perfect, we can start over here. The first thing you'd want to do is make sure everything is flat to the wall. So you can take a scraper and get everything smooth. You don't want anything sticking up. Another thing you can do is, if there's a little bit of an edge, you can just take a hammer and just curl it in a little bit. If there's a little bit of an indent, that's good, because we're going to put compound over it and smooth it. And you can use one of 2 things. In this case, we'll probably try to build it up. You can use a spackle, which gets very, very hard, or you can use a very lightweight compound. And what's nice about the lightweight compound is it'll sit there and not shrink, and if you're not putting anything else over here, it does a great job of masking it. But in this case, we've scraped it, we've pounded it a little bit, and then I'm just going to force some spackle in here. And I'm going to show you the difference between spackling and the lightweight compound. And you can see the moisture and how it starts to sag. And this is what you get when you have a compound or a topping compound with a lot of moisture in it. So now I'm going to clean this out and then show you what a lightweight spackle looks like. So I cleaned out the hole, and I'm using a very lightweight spackle, and this is amazingly light and fluffy. And what we're going to do is just float it into this hole. And what's nice about this, because it's so light, it won't sag at all, and we can just pull this smooth, and you should be able to see the difference between the other spackling. And we're going to let this dry for an hour or so, and then we can very lightly hit it with some very fine sandpaper or a sanding sponge, and then put a super light coat over this. But if you have holes in the ceiling, or holes maybe the size of a nickel or smaller, this lightweight spackling is an excellent product. So for this side, there's just a buildup of paint right here, and so all we need to do is take a scraper and get everything smooth, and if there's a little bit of an indent, that's better. And then we'll take some of this lightweight compound, and we're just going to force it into those holes, applying some good pressure. And I'm going to remove as much of the excess as I can. And I'm going to force it in the center, and then lightly coat it. We'll let that dry along with the other side, and then we'll come back in an hour or so, and we'll put a second coat over it. So the first coat's dry, and we're just going to put a second coat of lightweight compound over it. And even though it's a little rough, I pulled off the excess, but I want to leave a little bit of body there. So we'll let that dry, and then we can take a sanding sponge and just lightly feather the edges, and then we'll put a third coat over it. On the other side, we have the holes filled, but then there's this indent here. So again, we're just going to put a nice coat of compound, and I'm not going to go crazy trying to pull this tight, otherwise I'm going to drag compound out of this indentation. So we'll let this dry. Again, we'll come back once it's dry, we'll feather this edge, and then put a third coat on. So the second coat is dry, and I'm just going to take a sanding sponge and knock down any imperfections. And I'm going to do it on both sides. And on this side, you can tell there's a little bit of a ridge here because there's a little bit of a bevel in the wall. So I'll just knock off any of the high spots, and then I'll apply a third coat of compound. And you can go a couple different directions and see how the wall is shaped and which way, by pulling the blade, you're going to get a better finish. And then we'll put a third coat on this other side over the hole. And we'll just let that dry. We'll hit it very lightly after this is dry and see if we need to apply any more compound. So the third coat's dry, and you just have to hit it lightly with a sanding sponge, and super smooth, looks great. And then on the other side, it turned out real nice. So if you have holes in the wall or ceiling, lightweight spackle does an excellent job. And now we'll just put a little bit of primer and paint over this and it should look perfect.